Hello everybody, welcome to our questions and answers live on Thursday. I am Jill Bragg for Excellent Wife in Training. Today I thought it would be appropriate to come from my kitchen as we are talking about feeding a crowd. And we had a fun video we posted earlier this week between my sister-in-law and I that we recorded back at Christmas on feeding a crowd. But I got 6 questions in this week on how to feed a crowd, some particulars about that. And so today I'm going to answer those questions. So the first question we have today in feeding a crowd is, what kinds of food prep can you do ahead of time? This is really helpful. I like to interact with my company when they're here and talk to them. And so if you can get some things done ahead of time, then you will be able to enjoy your company more and you're not dead tired the moment they come in the door. So some of the things that I like to do ahead of time, obviously you would want to defrost anything that was frozen. I'm sure that goes without saying, but I said it anyway. Another thing I like to do, because I love lasagna, little secret, Jill Bragg's love language is lasagna. So I love to make lasagna because I can make it a day ahead or 2 days ahead or the morning before. And so you can do the whole process of lasagna ahead of time and pop it in your fridge. And then it's in the oven when company comes later. So that is a great thing that you can do ahead. Other things you can do, prep your salad, chop vegetables. If you're serving rolls or for like pulled pork, then you could go ahead and slice your rolls ahead of time and put them back in the bag. If you're doing an appetizer that involves bread, just get that cut. If you can even put it on a tray, if you have an extra fridge, have the butter and garlic on the bread ready to go, those kinds of things. If you just think ahead, what can I do? A couple little things that will cut out the work right beforehand. And you have the space to store things if they need to be kept cold, then those are some great things to do. Also, let's see. If you're having maybe a lunch and you want to do that meat and cheese tray we talked about before, then you can put that on a tray or a board ahead of time, get those things cut up and organized before company comes over. Now, there's a little bit more. You may not just be doing dinner when you're feeding a crowd. You might be having company for a whole weekend. So you might be doing some breakfast things ahead, making a casserole, putting it in the fridge, doing a baked oatmeal. You put that together, put it in the fridge, or even you can freeze that and pop it out when your company comes. You can shred cheese ahead if you buy it in a block and not the shredded kind. Cube it, cut up cream cheese even if that's going in a recipe. Pre-make your desserts, your cookies ahead of time. So there's all those kinds of things that you can do long before company comes. Now, I tend to avoid things that require a lot of standing over the stove right before company comes. I try to avoid those kinds of recipes, but if I have to, I will do those, and I will save certain things for company because every time someone walks in my door, they say, what can I do to help? So you might even need to pre-plan, what will I save for the person who asked me, what can they do? So think about those things too. But it's really gonna depend on the level of the food that you wanna serve. I love to have leadership groups over at times, and so sometimes those things really are gonna depend on what level of food you are making and how much you can do ahead. But if you're wanting to have a really nice dinner, really think about every little detail that you can do ahead of time. One other thing I like to do ahead is mashed potatoes. Now, they can be really tricky, and that's why I bring them up specifically. If you make regular mashed potatoes and then you refrigerate them, they tend to get hard. They seize, so to speak. So I'm gonna take this opportunity to tell you about this cookbook right here called Fix, Freeze, and Feast. It is based off of buying foods in Costco or Sam's Club or BJ's size bulk. And they have a fabulous recipe in here for garlic mashed potatoes, and I will post it for you. But they do not use milk and butter. Those are the things in the potatoes, as far as I believe. You could probably scientifically disprove me, but I'm guessing because they don't use milk and butter in this recipe. They use chicken broth and cream cheese. And so it makes 3 pans of mashed potatoes, and I like to make them ahead and put them in the freezer even a week before Thanksgiving, or when I know company's coming and we're having mashed potatoes. And then I just put them in the oven and they turn out perfect. And I must say, they are my nephew's favorite potatoes. So this recipe, or this cookbook, is really great for feeding a crowd because it is based on a Costco-sized package of chicken or beef or one of those things. It's intended for you to make like 3 meals at once and put them away in your freezer. But if you're feeding a crowd, this would also help you with bulk ingredients. So I'll post a picture of that too later so you can see who the author is and so forth. But that was question 1 about prepping ahead of time. Question 2, what do you cook on the stove top for a large crowd? Do you double the pans or the size of the pans? I would say I don't do too many recipes that require stovetop prep when making big things. I prefer crock pot, Instant Pot, oven because they have a little bit more space. But if you have to do things on the stovetop, I would differentiate. If you are boiling things, you can go up in your pots. You can get a taller pot. Go to Home Goods, get a really tall stock pot, or Costco has stock pots, or Walmart's. And you can boil a lot, vertically. You can make pasta, do that more in something vertical. But if you're browning or frying, say you're doing chicken and you need to brown it on the stove, you're gonna need more big pots. And I probably should have got out my frying pan. My mom replaces it for me like every 2 years because it's really big to feed 8 people for an average dinner. I also now got a George Foreman that is about this big because I like to do chicken on that without firing up the whole barbecue. And my mom thought it was ridiculous how many times I was cycling chicken through it when we had company. So that's a praise. But if you need to do the stovetop, then yeah, go up for boiling and out for browning and frying and stuff. But also, if you have a crock pot, that's a great way to cook things. For a crowd, you also do it ahead, just like the last question. If you have an Instant Pot and you figured that baby out, I know some people, they bought it, but it's just sitting there. It is worth your time to figure it out. It makes the best rice for me. I didn't have a rice cooker, so it does a great job. I can do a whole bunch, and you just have to get the hang of it and understand when it says it cooks in 5 minutes. That's once it's to pressure. So there's a learning curve you need to learn before you pull that baby out for the first time for company. Other question, where is the best place to get these huge pots and bowls? So not only do you need bowls and pots for the cooking, but also for the serving. I would say Sam's Club and Costco, BJ's, the stores that sell big amounts also sell big pots, big serving platters. Make those aluminum pans your best friend when you have company, because you can just toss them away when you're done, and your kids will have less dishes to wash. But also check Home Goods for like giant salad bowls for a decent price, and even Goodwill. I know our church got some big wooden bowls that are very pretty. They look great with white and black, and they were just at Goodwill. So if you have a chance to look around and they have something good there, that might be a good place for you to go. Also, I want to put a plug in here. Don't be afraid of paper when you have company over. If you're having a big crowd and you don't want to be doing dishes until midnight, don't be afraid to use paper plates and plastic silverware. Don't feel bad about it. It'll be just fine. Once again, company is coming to see you, not to have certain foods fed, gourmet things, or fine china. There's a place for that. But if you're hosting a big crowd, don't be afraid of the paper. Next question, do you assign seats when you have a large crowd, or do you let them wander and eat wherever? Well, that's a really good question. It really depends on what we're doing. I've been known to seat 18 people and do name tags when we're having a fancy dinner. If we're having families over, my husband and I have a little drill, I guess we do. We'll gather everyone in the kitchen buffet area for a big crowd. and he'll pray, and then he turns it to me to give directions. So if I want certain people to be talking to each other, I want all the adults in one room, but I want my kids to maybe be helping with the little kids in another room, then I'll just tell them, save the seats in the dining room for the adults. Kids, these 2 tables are for you, or kids, I want you to eat outside on the patio. And so I will give direction at time. When we have a whole bunch of small children or kids over, I'll say, it's fine for you to eat here, here, and here, but please don't eat in the living room where there's carpet. So we do give direction, but if we're having pizza or this or that, it's more casual, then I won't give those kind of directions. I'll just say, everybody eat anywhere, and they will. Let's see. Also, when it comes to where people sit, I really encourage the children to not sit down first. I encourage them to let older people go first. Our guests go first, older people go first. Now, when my kids were really tiny, we knew that Sanity was feeding them first and getting them set, and then the adults could eat and relax. But now that they're a little bit older, I am encouraging them to honor those who are older than them. Grandma and grandpa go before you, parents go before you, and then you wait. And that has been really helpful for my kids to learn to serve others. Also, if you're having a big crowd over, think about if anyone is coming who's age 3 and under. Do you have things to help mamas if they didn't remember something? So do you have, do my job. Do you have a booster seat for them to sit in? Do you have a spare kids silverware, maybe a spare bib, a spare sippy cup? I keep like one of each of those things for when we have company. Think about where small children will eat, over what flooring, etc. And just do what you can to help make it easier for the mom. She's probably not going to sit down very long, but do what you can to help her out if she has a small child. Let's see. What are some easy, economical meals for when you have families over? And a follow-up question that also came in was, what are my top 3 favorite meals for hosting a crowd? So my top 3 favorite meals, I'm actually going to give you a couple more ideas than that because there's different levels of having a crowd over. But as far as the easy, economical meals to have, if you've been encouraged this week to have a large family over for dinner or several small families and it's going to be a crowd, then you might be thinking economical for your budget. Things that you can do for that, once again, people aren't coming for the food, they're coming for the fellowship. So you can do anything that involves, say, a well-seasoned chicken strips or tenders, rice, vegetables, a salad. Usually people will offer to bring things, have them bring dessert, have them bring drinks, or the salad. I don't know if I think I said that. I also like to do spaghetti. That's really cheap. You can do some ground beef or some sausage or just sausage flavored sauce. I've also liked to do fajitas for a big crowd. You can choose to do chicken or you could put some beef in there for the fajitas. Pulled pork. Those are some really economical meals that you can have for others. I've also enjoyed doing a picnic in the backyard. We fire up the campfire, hamburgers and hot dogs or packets on the coals. I'll make like a pasta salad. We'll do s'mores. Really fun family time together, even in the backyard. Now, when I talked about my top 3 meals versus the economical, it's because when we have company over, it's not always, we don't always think economical. Sometimes we want to have a really fancy dinner. Sometimes we just want to make some fancier food. Or even if we invite someone over who rarely gets out, I might even ask them, you have to cook all the time because all of you are busy working. What's something that you haven't had in a long time that I could make for you? Did this recently for a family, and their daughter had been over at my house one day without them, and I'd made this random recipe, chicken cordon bleu casserole, and she went home and told them about it. And so when I asked them what they would like, they said, we want that chicken cordon bleu casserole we heard so much about. So that was just fun. It was fun to make them something they don't ever really have time to make. Also, there's times when my husband has extra time, and so we will get a little bit more meat, and he will smoke the meat all day. And so that's not necessarily economical, but it's really fun to just do something out of the ordinary, really nice, like a smoked brisket, ribs, flank steak. That's one of our things we like to do when we have more room in the budget and we're having company over. Also, having a crowd, I like to do meatballs. So grab a big bag of meatballs at Costco. I forget what they cost, but somewhere between $10 and $15, I think. You get a bottle of barbecue sauce, a bottle of, or a jar of grape jelly, and you put it all in a crock pot and you leave it for hours or while you're at church. And it makes a really nice saucy meatball. And then you can just do some rice up, some salad on the side, some cookies, and that's a fun dinner. This past summer, we decided to have company over like every Sunday night. We didn't have night church for 6 weeks. And so I planned 2 meals and we rotated them every other week. And so that made it super easy to know what I was doing, and we just had different company. And so we did pulled chicken sandwiches and chips. On the other weeks, we did the fajitas with the tortillas and some cilantro lime rice. Those are some really fun recipes to do for a crowd. And also there's always the standby, order pizza. So if you can afford to, just order up some pizza, make or buy bag salad, and then do dessert if you can. Let's see what else I had here. So when you're having company, there's a couple things for those recipes. You can go the frugal and serve them frugally, or you can do the fancy. You can do creative, where you eat outside, or you have a picnic, or even simple, where you order pizza. And remember, also we were talking about the other meals. You might be serving breakfast, and so you can do a breakfast buffet. You might be doing a cold cuts bar for lunch, ordering food in to be delivered. So those are just some quick ideas for hosting a crowd and feeding a lot of people. I will post some pictures of Fix, Freeze, and Feast on there, especially the mashed potatoes that you can do ahead. And I just pray that you are blessed as you are able to feed a crowd and bless other families with fellowship and be able to sit around and get to know people better while you eat together, fellowshipping together, and Lord willing, talking about the Lord and praising his name. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week. We're going to be talking about other recipes that you're interested in, and health. So health/recipes. We're not going to get crazy into health food, but we'll talk on it next week. And then stay tuned, because the last week of January, you can ask any question you want. We're calling it free for all, and not assigning a topic any month where we have 5 weeks. So any question that you've been wanting to ask while we've been talking about meals, but it's a totally different subject, be thinking about that in 2 weeks. We're going to do that. So take care. God bless.